Welcome back to Magazines ASMR. So instead of doing a magazine, because it was requested, I am going to do some of, I'm going to review some of the books that I've read this year. So the first one, so this actually isn't the first book that I read, but this was the last one I finished. So, and I have to actually return it to the library, so I thought I would kind of review this one first as I get a bunch of the other books back into my possession. Now this is called The Final Girl Support Group. Now, and it is by a novel by Grady Hendrix, New York Times best-selling author of the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. So, yeah, this is not a book I would have chosen. I'm part of a book club, and someone chose this book for last month's group, and it was very well received. And reviewed. I think it came out last year, I think, 2021. He has a bunch. He's a horror book writer. So he wrote Horror Store. I'm probably butchering that. It's German, it looks. My Best Friend's Exorcism, Paperbacks from Hell, We Sold Our Souls, and the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. Now apparently this one is really good as well. I don't know if I would read another one of his books, truth be told. I did not love this one. I'm also going to point it out, I really need to get my nails done. I know I promised you guys that I would be doing more posting, but I realize I don't get my nails done enough to make, it look perfect, and this is gonna bug me, but I do have to give this book back, so I just said, oh well, there's a little bit of retention, but they were really cute when I first got them, little daisies. Anyway, back to the book. Sorry, I just got sight of my nails and started thinking. Yeah, so this book, it's based on actually a bunch of horror films from the 80s, and basically it takes those stories from 80s movies and tells you that those movies were based on real life events, and the girls who survived and killed the bad guy at the end of all of the horror films, like Scream Queen horror films from the 80s, all got together and they had the same therapist and they spend time in a support group. And then all of a sudden there's someone trying to kill off final girls. So it very much is like 0 to 100. The action is, as it says here, fast-paced. So let me read the sleeve for you. It'll probably be better at describing what this book is. Okay. A fast-paced, thrilling horror novel that follows a group of heroines to die for. From the brilliant New York Times best-selling author of the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. So obviously that was his best book prior to this one. I actually think this one did better though. I could be wrong. In horror movies, the final girl is the one who's left standing when the credits roll. The one who fought back, defeated the killer, and avenged her friends. The one who emerges bloodied but victorious. But after the sirens fade and the audience moves on, what happens to her? Lynette Turkington is a real-life final girl who survived a massacre 22 years ago, and it has defined every day of her life since. And she's not alone. For more than a decade, she's been meeting with 5 other actual final girls and their therapist in a support group for those who survived the unthinkable, putting their lives back together piece by piece. That is, until one of the women misses a meeting and Lynette's worst fears are realized. Someone knows about the group and is determined to take their lives apart again, piece by piece. But the thing about these final girls is that they have each other now, and no matter how bad the odds, how dark the night, how sharp the knife, they will never, ever give up. So it's definitely quick, and it has received like a lot of praise. I personally felt like it was a little bit too entrenched in the, movie tropes of the last final girl. There's this one part too where, spoiler alert, but one of the characters dies at the very beginning, and he knows enough to be like, it was a black girl, but when it was the 80s, they made her movie into a cinematic masterpiece, but made the heroine white to appeal to more audiences, which I'm sure, I know what happened in the past and it's awful. But it was weird that he then also chose to kill off that character at the beginning, but that might have been a choice because they do that in the movies, if that sort of makes sense. I also felt like there weren't, there were a lot of loose ends that weren't tied up at the end, and I don't know, it just sort of seemed a little bit too obvious to me. That said, it was a really quick read, and I did enjoy it. But, if you're really looking for, a book that gets you thinking, I don't think this one's it. So, for that reason, I'm going to give this book I do it a 5 stars. I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5. Oh, is that harsh? Maybe 3. I'll give it a 3. 3 out of 5. Yeah, I'm content with that. And it was, again, the final girl support